Hey, what's up, one way? So we're back here to record some videos from you. You know, our videos are mostly for beginners, and I think the beginners need the most attention, you know, and today we're going to talk about escapes. All right, so the other day I was training with a UFC guy, and he didn't know how to do this, and to me that was very, very, very impressive, right? Especially because he had his coach watching. Anyways, so first thing you have to do when somebody takes your back is to defend the choke, you know, and the hand that's over your shoulder, that's the hand that's gonna choke you every single time. It's very unlikely to find a person that's gonna be able to choke you with the hand that's under your armpit. There are these people out there, but you're not gonna find them very often, you know. So first things first, defend that choke, you know. So I go there, boom, control that hand. If I can, I'll shrug my shoulders. You know, that's another thing. I push my ear against his arm, and I'm safe right here. So now I can deal with the hooks. I don't address the hooks before I address the choke. So that's the first thing I have to say. But let's talk about the baby escape. I call this the baby escape because both of my kids did that when I was trying to hold them. And it's funny because it's very easy and simple, and most people don't do. So as soon as you're safe, of course, you don't have a lot of time to do this. This is like, as soon as they take your back, you have to do this right away. If they adjust themselves over here like a backpack, you're not gonna be able to get out with this specific escape. But you control yourself, you're already controlling and defending the choke here. So here's what I'm gonna do. Look at my legs, I'm gonna extend my legs. And now I'm gonna slide away from my opponent's hips, right? So I'm gonna get here, look. I slide away from their hips. So now from there is going to be much harder for them to choke me because I can always go under. You know, I can always go here, control him, and now look, it's very hard for him to just choke me from there. Of course, they're going to try to go for the armbar in this situation, right? But then you do the technique we did last week. You defend the armbar from doing this. So now even if they throw their leg in front of your face, you have a lot more chances to defend yourself if you're controlling this other leg. And also you can get a C grip over here and you can pretty much be safe. You know, if you're an MMA guy, you can pretty much explode out of this technique right here. So that's one. Okay, so look, boom, they get you, you control, look, boom. So now what I'm gonna do, most of the times if they don't go straight to my arm, I'm gonna use my free arm to free that hook. Usually I don't grab the foot, I just use my elbow here to free, right? So now as soon as I get here, I'm gonna face that way and slide my head under the armpit. Boom. Most of the times, if I'm still here, if they're still here, I'll reach behind their neck. So now I'm gonna bump and go that way. Look, boom, bump, go this way. So now from there I can start a armbar attack myself on this far arm. I can go for ground and pound if I'm doing MMA. I can do a lot of stuff from there. So the baby escape, 8 out of 10 times you're gonna be able to get out just by doing that as soon as they take her back. So I would tell most of my beginners and most of my students and MMA guys, do this right away. As soon as they take her back, if you find yourself in that position, boom, get out. They're gonna try to go for the armbar, but you already know that's pretty much the only thing they can do. All right, so this one right here, is it specifically for self-defense situations or even MMA situations where you know they're not gonna try to pass your guard, but they are going to try to hit you with punches and elbows, right? So I'm gonna get right here, and I already know they're gonna get their hands on my face or even on my bicep, and they're gonna open up to try to beat me up, right? So the first thing you have to do, other than not panicking, if you panic, things are gonna get very hard for you. But if I'm calm and relaxed, the first thing I wanna do is grip fight, right? So I want to keep my hands on the inside of his biceps. So every time you find yourself in this position, you're gonna go here and you're gonna be on the inside. So now if they try to punch you, it's gonna be a little harder. They can still do it, but it's gonna be a little harder, right? So the next thing I'm gonna do, most of the times, I'm not gonna keep my guard closed right here. I'm gonna use my knees and shins to keep the frame. So look, I'm gonna be a little bit to the side, and now I'm using my arm and my knee to frame, right? So then from there, it's much harder for him to posture and punch me. And if they do create a lot of space, now I can push them away with my feet. You know, I can push them away, I can push them away. So that's something that I do a lot, just to keep the inside frame. So then from there, you can defend yourself a lot and you have time to react, push them away, get up, go on your elbows. So this is gonna be the first thing. Second thing, controlling their posture, right? That can also be the first thing. That's not necessarily the second thing, that can be the first thing. If you can, most of the times if they are going to punch you or try to hurt you with something, what I wanna do is to control their posture. However, if I just control their head and control them, they still got free arms to punch me, right? Yeah, so I don't want that. So most of the times I'm gonna go one arm, one underhook and one overhook. So I'm gonna use my legs to bring them to me most of the times. And now I'm gonna go here, look. Boom, control my hands. But that's the thing, I want my hips to face this side that I have the underhook. So if I just stay here, he can just punch me with his right hand, right? Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is to do this. Look, I'm gonna escape my hips a little bit and turn to the side. If you are in an MMA fight or anywhere with rules, people are not gonna be allowed to hit the back of your head. So from here, you're pretty much safe. And then you can implement the frames too. Look, so if I'm here now, I can now frame. So I frame. So now I'm controlling the posture as well as controlling the inside. I'm on the inside and I'm also controlling the posture. So from there, I can do a lot of stuff, especially because now, as soon as you find yourself in this position right here, they need to push themselves up using their hand, right? Right. So as soon as I do this, look, now that's when my knee is free to go for triangles, to push their knee, to sit up, go for arm bars, go for chokes. So you have a lot of options to do from here if they are trying to punch you and you're controlling their posture in the inside. So now mount position, right? So people mount on you. Most of the times you're gonna try to do your bumps and everything, which is fine. But I would, before I try to do my bumps, because again, they already took you down, they already passed your guard, they already mount on you. So that means they know something, right? So the first thing I want to do when I get to this position, of course, if I can bump out, explode out of the position, I'll do it. But if I cannot, look, I'm gonna try to, again, keep my elbows on the inside. Every time you can keep your elbows on the inside, you can frame, you can push them out, you can create more space. So that's a very good thing. And also, I don't want their knees on my armpit right here, because if they ever get hit, that means they're too high, they're too tall, and it's gonna be hard for you to get out of here. You can still get out, but it's gonna be tougher. So as soon as they mount, I'm gonna use my elbow to kind of block their knees. You know, so I'm blocking his knee out, away from my chest, away from my armpit. So then from there, I'm gonna have more time to react. I already have my elbow tight, so now I want my hips to face that leg. So look, I'm gonna face that leg with my hip. So now my outside foot is gonna fish his foot right here. So now I'm no longer in a mount position. I'm kind of 3/4. You know, I'm in a better position now than I was 2 seconds ago. So now you see this elbow. I'm gonna push his knee out and bring my knee to my chest. So now from there, over here, I'm out. He's pretty much not controlling me at all anymore. All I have to do is to switch from left hip to right hip. So now we're already in half guard with the underhook. And if I want to keep going, I'm gonna bring my right knee to my chest and get to the close guard. So look, I'm here, boom. I bring my right knee to my chest, and I switch my hips again to put them back in close guard. So let me do that. Let me do that a little faster. Boom. So they mount. Look, I block it right away. You know, if I need to block the arm, fine, I'll do that. So then look, boom, I turn, catch. Every time they are behind my elbow, know that they can go for the head and arm, and they can also go to your back. So most of the times what I'm gonna try to do is to keep my elbow tucked over here. If I push it like that, I'm gonna turn right away this way in order to try to prevent my back from be ticking. So again, I'm here, boom, I frame. So now look, knee to my chest, boom. Now switch, close guard. All right, side control now. So anytime people get to the side control, there are a few things for you to worry about. But the biggest thing is they want to control your hips and your shoulders, you know. And if you have free hips or free shoulders, that's when you're going to find yourself free, right? One thing that I don't want to do, I don't want to be messing with my hand in front of his face, because that's when they can grab my wrist and put me in the Americana, especially if I'm not very aware of the possibilities here. But again, same thing from the mouth, same thing from the back, same thing from most positions. I don't want my chest to be exposed like that. Most of the times I want to keep my elbows tucked, so that way I can do my thing, I can defend myself better, right? So I'm gonna bump and shrimp a little bit just so I can get my elbow between myself and his hips. I don't want him to have the ability to control my shoulder. So in order to do that, I have to create some space here to my left. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bump him that way. Since I want him to go that way, I'm gonna bump him that way. And as he's coming back and adjusting himself, I'm gonna get what I want. Look, I can go thumb in, or I can just bump that way and look that way. Look. Most of the times they're gonna come back, and as they're coming back, look, I can get this elbow in. So one more time. So they're here, they're nice and heavy, they're being strong, so I go here, look, boom. So that's enough for me to get my elbow in, boom. So now anytime you can get your elbow in, now we can go back to something that Shanji and Saulo, they've been talking about for decades right now, which is the diamond concept, right? So every time I can control, I can connect my edges, my hand to my forearm, my elbow to my knee. You know, I'm safer. I have a solid base. I have a solid foundation that is hard for them to get in, right? So right now my goal is gonna be to touch my knee to my elbow, but of course they're gonna be heavy, they're gonna be trying to get in. So look, my free foot, I'm gonna go here and shrimp out. And look, my elbow now is connected to my knee. I've seen Gordon talking about this recently too, and it's amazing to see that every school, every foundation is pretty much similar, you know. So every time you can connect your edges, you're stronger. If I want to be even stronger, I'll be here and here and here, you know. So every time you connect your edges, you're much stronger. It's much harder for them to get in. So now from here, I'm controlling the shoulder. I can push. If I'm flexible enough, I can bring my foot in front of his face to also push the shoulder. So I can do a lot from here just by connecting my elbow to my knee. Of course, I can always push, boom, come up on my elbow, and you know, from there I can do a lot of stuff. And if we go back to the other technique we were just doing, you can always boom, boom, and now you're in a position to do the triangles, you're in the position to do the omoplatas, you're in a position to do a lot of stuff from there without being worried about defending. From here, we start attacking too. So that's it for the escapes, you know, some basic stuff, you know, for you to keep in mind. Sometimes it's better to learn one of each than learning 10, 15, 20 variations that you're not going to remember tomorrow in practice. Another video for you guys, another video. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Hayabusa, for sponsoring this video. And thank you, Hybrid Jiu-Jitsu, for opening the doors for one-way videos. I'll see you next week. Peace.